Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We bring unique insight and analysis behind your favorite teams at the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Johns, and man, I've been really excited about this episode for a very, very long time because we have a special guest in here today. The Ball State color analyst David Eha joins the show. David, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Chase. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Most definitely, man. Just obviously we met when Earlham had to play Ball State earlier in the season and all that, and got a connection right there. So, I appreciate the shout out, especially on ESPN and all that. That meant a lot to do. A lot of people were talking about that and all. I really appreciate that, and the guys that work here at the show really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, well, no problem. Happy to help, and hopefully it helped with your viewership and getting some more people to log on that had never heard about it. And happy to do it, and happy to be with you here today.
Most definitely, man. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but I just want to get a little background on yourself. Actually, we're gonna do the MAC tournament preview here in a little bit, but I want to get a little background on yourself. Just what was it like growing up for you? How did you get in the game of basketball? How'd you get into all that? Just take the floor is yours right here.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Cincinnati, and I was one of five kids. I had two older brothers, and I had a father that was all-state center fielder in high school for baseball. Had basketball scholarship offers at the University of Cincinnati. Was my coach through all the sports in Little League. So I really grew up around a house where it was ball all the time. Didn't matter football, baseball, basketball. You played them all, and so I've been playing ever since I was a kid. And went to Cincinnati Roger Bacon, and towards the latter part of my as I started to progress, started to put more emphasis and focus on basketball. That really came my love. I played football and baseball as well, but really focused a lot on basketball. And I had a neighbor growing up who was an NBA referee for 30 years by the name of Mike Mathis. And Mike had two kids that were my age. And so, he would drag us to his games, didn't matter wherever. And so, I was exposed to a lot and really embraced the game of basketball. And so, played at Ball State. When I was in high school, Roger Bacon, we won a state championship my junior year, got some exposure there. And then for college, Ball State was the perfect fit. It was about 2 hours from Cincinnati, so my parents could come see me play. Great school, great community, and never looked back. Was there. I redshirted as a freshman. We had some really good teams there. Got an opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament in 1986. So that was fun, and kind of brings me to where I'm at today.
And that's awesome stuff to hear, man. I mean, obviously, I'm an Ohio kid myself. I love the city of Cincinnati. I know you definitely do as well. Roger Bacon, though, that's a pretty prestigious high school down there in Cincinnati. Like, the Spartans. They've been pretty relevant in football recently and all that stuff. Do you still have pretty strong ties to Roger Bacon?
I do. I try to get back at least once a year. They have a sports stag that brings a lot of alumni back. I don't get there as much as I would like, but I still try to follow them from afar. And, whenever I get a chance, it's always going back and meeting with my former teammates and my high school buddies. I still have a ton of family in Cincinnati. I live in Columbus now. So I'm a Bengals season ticket holder. Who Dey.
Yes, sir.
So I give back all the time.
Oh, most definitely, man. Gotta love representing the 513 and everything. That is so awesome. Now, from the 513 all the way, what's the area code for Munsell? 765?
765, yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, going from the 513 to 765, what makes Muncie so special? Obviously, you were, there as a player and a student, and now you're here, as a broadcaster. What just makes that town so special, and what made you want to come back to it?
Yeah, well, it really is. It's a great college town, right? Most of a lot revolves around the university. And I guess a couple things. One, from a basketball perspective, it's the state of Indiana, right?
Oh, yeah.
Being in Richmond and at Earlham, how much they embrace and love basketball. And so going to a place that had that type of love and commitment for their sports teams, particularly in basketball. But for me, the other thing was it was a small town. And I tell this to people all the time, going from Cincinnati to a smaller community like Muncie, it was one of the most friendly places you could possibly visit. I mean, very inclusive community, welcoming. A lot of the people that went to Ball State grew up in smaller towns in Indiana. It was just an easy place to make friends. And I think, when you look back on it, and even now, Muncie as a smaller community, you still have that feel. And they love their Ball State sports, that's for sure. And so it's fun for me to go back for every game and see a lot of people that have been around the community forever.
Most definitely. That's the sense I kind of got, like, even from just being there for a couple hours playing the game. You guys, there's a lot of turnout with the fans and all that for opening night game. Just a lot of camaraderie, from the fan base, the team, and all that. So it was really neat to, kind of take some of that stuff in while, going into Worthen Arena and all. So I want to ask this though. What got you into broadcasting though? Is that like something that you ever would have thought 20 or 30 years ago, or is that just, you kind of have that on your mind though? Like, what kind of got you there?
Yeah, so it's a great point. When I was going to college, I was actually a journalism and communications major. I minored in business. So I was going to college, and all my life, when I thought when I'm done playing, that's what I wanted to get into. I wanted to get into broadcasting or sports writing. And so once I graduated and it's time to get out in the real world, I tried to dip my toe and see if I could enter the broadcasting world. And it was just incredibly hard to break into. If you think about it, back then, we didn't have any streaming. There was not, you had maybe 3 channels. ESPN was just getting started. There weren't a ton of jobs the way there is now. So I just went off into the business world. And as luck would have it, probably this is my 20th season, so 20 years ago.
That's awesome.
The person that had been doing the color analyst for Ball State stopped doing the games. And so Ball State decided, well, let's ask some former players if they'd be interested in coming back and doing it. And I said, well, absolutely, when they asked me. So the first year they brought about 10 of us back to do an entire season. So each guy got to do about 2 or 3 games. And after that first year, apparently they liked what they saw, and they asked, hey, would I be interested in doing it, full-time basis? And luckily, the job that I've had has allowed me some flexibility and travel. And I said, absolutely. I mean, it was something I've always loved doing. And the biggest thing for me, Chase, it keeps me involved in the program. I love being able to support the team. It's short of coaching, right? I don't have the stress of wins and losses, but I'm still around the game. I'm still around the school that I love. And I would pay them to do it. That's how much I love it, particularly this time of the year. But that's how it all got started.
Man, that's awesome stuff to hear, though. Definitely. I mean, just congrats on the 20 years though, broadcasting the Cardinals, man. That's brilliant and everything. That's so, like, here's the thing, I kind of parlay that in, like, obviously I'm trying to do the media communications myself, and my dad has always told me that, always have kind of that, that minor in business and all that stuff. Maybe hearing it from, another source like yourself, maybe I might have to, keep that into account. I definitely will look into that for sure. But that's awesome stuff to hear about the broadcasting. To go to a particular day, November the 7th, 2022, Earlham versus Ball State. Ball State had a very, very nice opening night victory and all. I don't even touch on the score, but very good showing from them that night. Obviously, I think what happened was, I think you were talking to one of my teammates, Jaden Terry, before the game, and then I came over and we had a nice little conversation for a couple minutes talking about broadcasting and all that stuff. And I just wanted to say, I really do appreciate you giving the shout out and all that stuff, and just having a nice conversation before the game and everything, and just kind of lighten my mood, saying, like it was nice to go over to, yourself as a, color analyst and just be like, like just making more connections, with yourself.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you did it. And I did the same type of thing when I was growing up as a player. I mean, I'll never forget when we played in the NCAA tournament. That was on CBS.
Yep.
We'd never been on CBS. There's no way. Little Ball State. Are you kidding me? So, I did the same thing. I took the advantage. These guys were at practice, went over, talked to them, picked their brain, and
Yep.
and I always remembered that people were gracious enough to give me their time and answer my questions. So that's the very least. And kudos for you for doing it. That's what it takes. You gotta put yourself out there a little bit, and I admired you for it. So I can't wait to see what bigger and better things come in the future.
Man, most definitely appreciate that for sure. That was, that was a very fun night also, especially, on the court, maybe, getting the experience to play on, on ESPN in front of a big crowd, but off the court, I really took a lot away from that. I appreciate that from you. Now we'll talk about this Ball State team though. They're 20-11, 11-7 in conference, the 4 seed in the tournament. What's the difference between this Ball State team compared to the other years? And who are some players that have impressed you on this squad?
Yeah, well, I mean, they have good players, right? I mean, it kind of starts right there. And I think the biggest thing that Michael Lewis, first year coach, was able to do is when there was a coaching change, we had 3 key players that entered the portal. Peyton Sparks, 6'9", 240 big man. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year, went into the transfer portal. And look, this guy could have gone to numerous Power 5 schools. And Michael Lewis was able to explain his vision for the program and get Peyton Sparks to pull his name out of the portal and agree to come back. Once he did that, it happens his 2 best friends are 2 other sophomores, Bashir Jihad and Jalen Sellers, that both were in the portal, and they came back. So in one fell swoop, in the span of 2 days, we had 3 starters returning, which was huge. So the nucleus and the guys that have been there, and they're still young, right? Like there's not many teams that play 4 sophomores as many minutes as we do. And so, as far as from years past to this year, where I got to give Coach Michael Lewis credit is he's got them to buy into defense. If you're not going to play defense, you'll find a seat on the bench next to him. And taking care of the basketball and playing smart, playing as a team. He's really got those guys to buy into the team concept, and it's helped them win a lot of close games. I think they're 16-3 when they've got a lead at halftime. So they're playing smart, disciplined team basketball. And look, that's what it takes to have a good season.
Most definitely. And you look at, the top scores on that team. You guys have, 4 guys that are scoring over 10 points a game. Coleman, Sellers, Sparks, Jacobs, all over the 12 mark and all that. Jerron Coleman. Jerron Coleman, I believe, didn't he transfer? He came from Missouri, I believe. He went to Missouri and came back.
It's right. He's what they call a boomerang transfer. Started 2 years at Ball State. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year, transferred to Missouri. They had a coaching change, and he came back, and he hasn't missed a beat, and he has got a unique skill set. At 6'5", he can play the point guard. He can guard 1 through 5 on the defensive end. And I'll tell you, Chase, and Michael Lewis says this all the time, he is the alpha dog of the team. And he is going through a turf toe injury right now, and he has missed the last couple games. And so the hope is Thursday he'll be able to get back in the lineup, because he is a key piece of what Ball State does. Leading scorer, he can assist, he does it all. So no question, having Boogie Coleman out there is important. But you mentioned the balance. It's not just one guy. We've got basically 5 guys at any point in time that can get you 10 to 20 points on a nightly basis. So that makes it a difficult cover. I think one of the best stories is 6'2" point guard Demarius Jacobs, that for the majority of the year led the MAC in block shots. for a 6'2" guard. I
Wow.
mean, which is really an incredible statistic. And he's kind of been that steady presence. And with Coleman being out, he's really stepped up his scoring. He's a great defender. So, there is a lot of balance and the bench scoring. We're starting to get a little bit more of that. And I think that's going to be key. If you want to win 3 games in 3 days, you got to have some bench production.
Most definitely. And that's the thing with, when it comes to March Madness and conference tournaments, your older guys, you're going to rely on them, but you're also going to have your younger guys who've, have been matured throughout the season. They're not freshmen. They're not sophomores anymore. They are, veterans in this game. And, it's all depends on, that entire group coming together and just, trying to get their will through this, a tough stretch of 3 games in 3 days to make it to the big dance. And Ball State definitely has, they have all the things that they need. They are very well equipped to make that type of run overall. And I will say before we move on, Peyton Sparks, I mean, having to guard him, I mean, that was obviously tough as heck, but he's a heck of a player though. He's, big body, able to, really demand his way inside and all that. And an interesting stat, 2 assists a game for the big guy. I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff overall.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? Because when you go to play at Ball State, I mean, it's similar like if we go to play at Purdue, right?
Yeah.
And guarding a Zach Edey, just some bigger, stronger. Yep. And Peyton Sparks is, man, I tell you, I love the kid. He is the heart and soul of the team. I mean, he is just as good an example of a student athlete you'd ever want to come across. Extremely humble, extremely well liked amongst not only his teammates but people in the university. And he plays with an energy and a passion. And you mentioned the passing. One of the things Peyton has really improved, when you're 6'9", 240 and the freshman of the year in the league, you're going to face a lot of double teams.
Oh, yeah.
And those assists, his scoring may be down a little bit, but he involves everybody on the team so much.
Yep.
So just having him on the floor opens up things for everybody else. And so he is a load. There's no question about it, man. And he gives you a place to go when shots maybe aren't falling. Get it into the big fella. I guarantee you, good things are going to happen.
Got that right, man. I mean, he's in there. If there's double teams, kickouts, you got cutters, you got, a whole lot of options. But then, like I said, that's like the bread and butter. Get it into him. His stuff's not really flowing and all that, and just, try to make some type of breakthrough. But, that's awesome stuff to hear there. Cleveland, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Who to watch out for up in the 216?
Yeah, so really, I mean, here's the great thing about the MAC and the tournament, right? Anything can happen. Be honest with you, there's 8 teams there, but if you were to tell me that, one of the top seeds got knocked off, I don't think anybody would be shocked, right? And that's kind of the pressure of being a mid-major and where it's a one and done and you're not going to get an at-large. I mean, you look at Toledo, they have had an unbelievable season. They still got to win 3 games. And you have one bad shooting night, it all comes to an end. So let's start there with the Rockets because they have the nation's longest winning streak right now at 15 games in a row.
Wow.
Second in the nation in scoring behind Gonzaga. They are as good of an offensive team as I've seen in quite some time. And, the thing that's different about Toledo, they started the MAC season 1-2. We beat them on the road, and they supposedly had a pretty spirited practice after that where Todd Kowalczyk said, all right, you guys want to get where we want to go. We got to commit to playing beat the better defense.
Yep.
And they've done that. So, look, when a team's won 15 in a row in the league, Chase, you know how hard that is. Doesn't matter what league, with the scouting reports, going on the road, that's saying something. So there's no question, man. They are the favorite. But then Kent State, they got the reigning player in the league in Sincere Carey. And then Akron as well is a really good team. And the one thing, all 3 of those teams that I mentioned have the best closers in the conference. You've got Ray J. Dennis at Toledo, Xavier Castaneda at Akron, and Sincere Carey at Kent State, where at the end of games, if it's close, the ball is going to be in one of those three guys' hands, and they typically deliver. And so I always a big believer, and maybe I'm a little biased, right, because I'm a point guard,
Yeah.
but having that type of player, if you're a coach on the floor in crunch time, these dudes can ball. And so, so that to me in these close games, a lot of it's going to be decided by these premier players getting the ball down the stretch. And I think Ball State, look, if we can get past Ohio in the first round, we can talk about that matchup. We split with Toledo this year, who's in the upper half of our bracket. So, on a neutral floor, anything can happen.
Most definitely. And also have, like you said, having a floor general that, can get a bucket in crunch time is so critical. I mean, being able to, trust him to, keep the ball in his hand and not turn it over, but then also go get a bucket and, ice the game and all that. That is so huge in March, having a guy or two that can just, you tell him, hey, we got to go make a play, just make it happen. And having one or two of those guys during this time, especially 3 games, 3 days, it's going to be preached like that the entire time through all conference tournaments. It's critical. It's critical at this time of year. We could talk about this Ohio Ball State game real quick. I mean, this is, obviously, 4 versus 5 matchup. There's, probably not a whole lot of disparity between both of these teams. What are you looking at coming on Thursday?
Yeah, well, first, I got to give Jeff Bowles, the coach of Ohio, credit. I mean, he lost Mark Sears, who's now starting point guard for Alabama, and Ben Vanderplas, who's now starting at Virginia. And so it took him a while to gel, but, he's had a heck of a year. The thing that jumps out at me is the matchup of the big guys. We talked about Peyton Sparks. Ohio has Dwight Wilson, who's 6'9", 250.
Man.
So you're talking about 2 Shaqs of the MAC facing off against one another.
I like that.
I mean, great high field goal percentage, top 3 in rebounds. So this is going to be an old-fashioned, old-school brawl down on the block, which is, to me, you don't see that a ton anymore, right? Everything's usually 5 out, guys shooting 3. So I think foul difficulty could play a part in this. Got to keep the big guys out of foul trouble. And, the Cardinals lost. They only played them one time this year. We lost at Ohio by 5, I think. And our starting point guard left after 10 minutes with concussion protocol. So, I think the Cardinals match up very well. Ohio was 14-2 at home, but struggled on the road. So, how are they going to be on a neutral floor? But as you know, in these situations, it just comes down to, can you make shots? And then you got to defend. All it takes is one poor shooting night. And, so if you can, whichever team can make some threes, I think it's going to go a long way towards seeing who comes out on top on Thursday.
Yep, that's the key. As simple as that, right there. Shaq of the Max, though. I Shaqs of the Mac. I like that. I definitely want to hear you say that on the call. That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, how about this though? The identity of the top 4 teams in the MAC. Obviously, you talked about Toledo, how they're able to get out, run, and score. You talked about Ball State, their integrity on defense and precision on offense. What about overall like an Akron or a Kent State? How would you kind of describe these teams and their identity?
Sure. So for Akron and Kent, I would say it's toughness and defense. Those guys are going to come at you like they're going to throw the first punch, and they're going to wait for you to wilt. So you've got to be ready for it. Kent State, one of the top teams in the country in steals. They will blitz the ball screens. And if you aren't strong with the ball, if you're not ready for their defensive pressure, they will suffocate you. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Akron. Akron is not a huge, terrific offensive team, but they are all about defense. And so you've got to have a mindset. You got to take care of the ball, because with both of those teams, if you turn it over, that's death, because they're going to run out. They're going to get threes. They're going to get layups. They're going to go on a 10-0 run. So the number one thing you got to do against both of those teams is take care of the basketball. You just have to, because if not, they're going to get a lot of fast break and points off turnovers. And man, Toledo, there's a lot of pressure there. I hate to say it because you don't want to minimize it. They've won the league in the regular season 3 years in a row. They have not been to the NCAA since 1980.
Wow.
So, I can't discount. That is fantastic what Todd Kowalczyk has done. But at the end of the day, a lot of people there grade you. Did you go to the tournament?
Yeah.
Last year was Akron. 2 years ago was Ohio. Do many teams know that Toledo won the regular season? People want to see you get to the dance. And so, that's a lot of pressure on Toledo. Had an unbelievable season, but they're not going as an at-large. So they need to win those 3 games. And so, but they had the best player in the league, in my opinion, Ray J. Dennis. Transfer from Boise State. This guy does it all. So, it's going to be a great matchup. Really, it's the best time of the year. It's a great tournament. They do a phenomenal job up in Cleveland. And as you can tell, man, I can't wait to get there on Thursday.
Man, most definitely. It's going to be so awesome to see, Toledo, best team in the conference, but the most pressure on them. I mean, it's a unique scenario right there. I mean, a 40 plus year drought. So they're going to have a lot of pressure on them. And like you're talking about with Akron, Kent State and all that, their defense is their offense. They get out and go once they're able to, jump ball screens and, try to force a lot of turnovers overall. So, very, very unique stuff right there. As we're kind of winding down toward the end, I want to ask about, Amani Bates. All right. Amani Bates, when, he averaged 19.2 points a game this season, 5.8 rebounds. Obviously, he went to Memphis, the previous year, was, the number one player in high school in his class of 2022, reclassified, all the stuff, 6'10", 170 pounds, guard, forward, whatever you want to call him, unique player. What were your thoughts when you got to cover a game or two on him?
Yeah, so I got to see him play twice, right? And the first game he put up 35 points. It was an unbelievable performance against us. He was on the road. He had 24 in the second game. The guy at 6'10" has an unbelievable offensive skill set. Mm-hmm. So he's a terrific player in the MAC. Yep. A couple things, though. You mentioned the 170. He is 6'10", but 170. Yeah. And honestly, he was getting exposed a little bit on the defensive end. Yep. And so when you talk about translating to the next level, that to me is where it was going to be a struggle because guys were going at him. They were trying to put him in pick and rolls and get the switch and go right at him. And so here's the one thing I'll say, Chase, that I didn't even realize it till the first game and I was doing my notes on. He's only 19 years old. Yeah. And so conceivably he could be a college freshman this year, right? So I know there's been a lot of stuff off the court. And look, when you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 15, and that's a lot to live up to, right? So I'm not going to judge anybody on that. So, but I'm sure scouts, and I talked to a couple scouts who've been in the game, and they're saying if he came out, he could go anywhere from 20 to number 40. And somebody's going to take a chance just because of the potential and how young he is. But, look, in the MAC at 6'10", and he's raising up, you can't block that. And he had deep range. The other thing I'll say is I don't know if I would have liked to play with him because honestly, you got 4 guys that a lot of times standing around while he was doing one-on-one. They struggled as a team. I think they only won 8 games all year. Yeah. So you got to kind of balance that, right?
Yep, most definitely. And that's, could be a big reason why they're not, in Cleveland this weekend. But yeah, exceptional talent and all that. I just, love to see, love to hear your insight from it since you've covered, 2 games that he has played. Last thing right here. You've already kind of said it before. Does it get any better than this time of year?
No way. So we played our last game of the year on Friday night. So this is the first weekend I had free for some time. And I don't
Yep.
know if you're like me, but yesterday watching all those
Oh
conference
yeah.
semifinals, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm glued to Lafayette American going to double overtime. I mean, it is, Kennesaw State, right?
Yeah.
Like it is the best time of the year, bar none. The level of excitement, the pressure, seeing those teams that get to go to the NCAA tournament. That's what it's all about, and I love it. And I, with God willing, come Saturday night, Cardinals will be playing in that MAC finals. I've been doing this 20 years. I haven't been to a NCAA tournament as a broadcaster, so I'm hoping like heck we can win 3 games in 3 days, because there would be nothing better than making a trip back to the dance.
Most definitely. Hope there's a low amount of more chirping on the microphone for the next couple more weeks for sure. But that's so awesome though. I mean, I watched Houston versus Memphis yesterday. That came down to the buzzer beater and all on CBS. That was, really good game to catch and all. But just so obviously, I'm a big Bengals fan. I love football and all that. But man, I mean, this time of year you can't beat it. The weather's getting nice. The games are getting crazier. The outcomes, the upsets, the madness. It's March. You gotta love it. One shining moment. It's
Seriously, Chase,
yeah.
that first Thursday and Friday. I mean,
Oh
does it get
yeah.
any better than morning till night? And I
Not one bit.
know I live downtown Columbus. 2 blocks from me is the arena here. They're going to be hosting first round games,
Yep.
so that's going to be exciting. Everybody coming to town. So there's nothing like it. I hope there's been talk of them moving to 96 teams, and that would be the
Wow.
dumbest thing possibly
Oh my
ever.
goodness.
I hope to goodness they don't ever do that.
Please don't.
But yeah, man, this is. I think it's the greatest sporting event there is, without question, because you got the David versus Goliath factor, and there
Oh
is
yeah.
nothing better. And I'll get on my soapbox a little bit before we go, but
Yep.
the idea that a Toledo can be 26-5 and not sniffing out large. And I'm seeing some of these teams in the Power 5 conference that might be 6-11, and they're
Yeah.
talking about them getting in.
Yeah.
I mean, that just, I don't know. I'd love to see them. I'd love them to see it give the mid majors a couple more opportunities.
Most definitely. There's a couple mid majors out there that, you could put them up against, a team that's 6-11 in a big conference and, be a pretty good game overall and just see how that, will decide it. But it would be nice to get some of those mid majors some more exposure like that. But man, like I said, you win your conference and anything can happen. Anything can happen this weekend and all through March. Gotta love the madness. But man, I appreciate you coming on. This was a really, really fun episode. Been looking forward to a minute, and it's come and gone, but it's been a great one for sure.
All right, Chase, I appreciate you having me, and can't wait to see you continue to take off. Anything I can ever do to help you, man, you let me know.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you for sure. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
And with that being said, it's the end of the episode, and we will see you guys next time.